about that, about the 80s and the end of 80s when gangster rap thing came? How did it affect in Finland?
Well, the gangster rap thing didn't start at the end of the 80s. It started mostly in the 90s. It was, that's, I probably would say that was more of the West Coast thing. You started out with guys like NWA, Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, Eazy-E, MC Ren, these guys. They started this gangster rap thing. I would say it mostly started on the West Coast. And very different from the rap before. It was more social rap and more about political rap, about the conditions, what's going on in America, what's going on with black people, what's going on with people in general. But when that gangster rap thing came, that was just a whole new thing. It was just guys talking whatever they wanted to talk. It had no kind of message. It's just like, we're going to do what we want to do, fuck the police. We're going to do our thing. And that kind of they kind of coined that thing as gangster rap.
So how do you think it affected the scene in Finland? Or did it affect any?
I don't think it affected anything really in Finland, this gangster rap. It was just, it came, I'd say, West Coast thing. There were guys who were rapping. There have been rap groups around in Finland, little small groups for a long time. The first dudes I think I heard here were called Raptori. Long time ago, and they were trying to do their thing, and then a lot more came along, trying to do this rap thing. But then these two dudes, Fintelligence, came along, Chemo and Hanka. Chemo used to be one of my students as well, and the b-boy game and the breakdance and that whole scene, and they started rapping, and they became pretty big and pretty well known, and kept doing their thing, and all these years later, you see where they are now.
Tell us about a little bit about the other parts of hip hop culture besides the breaking in Finland.
Yeah, well, you had MCing, graffiti artists, DJing, the four elements of hip hop: b-boying, graffiti, MCing, and DJing. And there were a few guys that broke off into some of the other elements. They became DJs. Some guys became graffiti artists, and then the MCing rappers. And that went on more of on an underground level. Some guys became pretty well known, and graffiti artists. And Yanni Tolan, I could say, one of the guys I knew from the early days. He used to be one of my students as well. He became a pretty prolific graffiti artist and went on up, even surpassed that. He's done a lot of great things. And you have, as I said, the MCs and people like Fintelligence, Chemo, Hanka, and a lot of other groups. They all became prolific here in Finland and did their things. And the DJs, there are a lot of DJs, well-known DJs here, and they're doing their things too, doing their hip-hop jams and spinning, some spin vinyl, some use CDs, and but technology changes, and we got to go with the flow. But it's kind of good, kind of nice to see people still using the vinyls on the real old school hip-hop jams and stuff that you're actually spinning with vinyls, to bring that old school feeling back the way it was. But it's cool.
So, can you tell me more about your career here in Finland? What have you been doing?
My career, what I've been doing. Well, as I mentioned to you earlier in this interview, I'm from a musical background, and what I'm doing right now, basically, I'm a music artist and a singer-songwriter. So I basically write a lot of tracks for different DJs and people around the world. I've worked with people like David Guetta. I've worked with people like Axwell and the Swedish House Mafia. I've worked with a lot of English DJs and people from Head Candy and just loads and loads of people, and it's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger all the time. So I'm basically a music artist nowadays doing a lot of this, house, Euro dance, house pop, different stuff. And but as I said, my background is more gospel, R&B, hip hop. But you know, you got to do what you got to do, pay the bills.
Um, you said when the second grade started, um, they started um, like raising up a new b-boy generation in Finland, um, and there started like these ube and
Yeah.
jams like that. Did you see a lot of new faces rising that was like standing out in the crowd, for example?
Yeah, I mean, well, there was so many new jacks coming into the game during the time of the Helsinki battle. A lot of new young guys was coming up, and a lot of people were coming from different places, different parts of Finland to Helsinki just to be involved in the Helsinki battle, and saw a lot of interesting people coming up, new b-boys. Level was getting better and better because you see they've been training and all that. And I think one of the prolific groups that's kind of stood out at that time during the Helsinki battles was a group from Jyväskylä called the Midpoint Rockers. And one of the most prolific b-boys that came out of the Midpoint Rockers was Jussi, b-boy, Jussi, and Focus. He calls himself Focus. And I could already see that he was, like a little star at that time. And they was killing a lot of the groups here in Helsinki. So I said, Midpoint Rockets were some guys to watch out for. And then later on, things went the way they went, and UC ended up moving to Helsinki, and they started a new b-boy group, Flomo, and mixture of different people from Helsinki and stuff like that. So it became very, very well known and very good group. Probably one of the most prolific b-boy groups today at this point.
Yeah, was there a lot of people in those Helsinki battles? Do you remember, like?
Yeah, quite a lot of, because it was like the second craze of hip hop. So hip hop, b-boying started coming up again. There was quite a lot of groups from different places: Oulu, Lahti, Tampere, Kuopio, everywhere, from everywhere, Jyväskylä, everywhere. So there's a lot of people coming in. But that's what I was telling you about the guy who was running the Helsinki battle, Pasi Palonen. He didn't really want to make it an official battle. It was just a Helsinki battle, unofficial battle. Just if you're a b-boy and you want to come and dance, here's your chance. But I saw it more like that. Okay, now the craze is becoming bigger again. That's when I got the idea. Say, okay, it's time to form a official b-boy Suomen mestaruut competition, and that's where I got the idea.
Um, so when was the first? Do you remember the year when the first time ube started?
Let's see. It was around 2000. Oh, I wish I had Ola here. He knows all these dates and stuff. I'm bad with dates. I would say somewhere around 2004. Could be 2004, 2003.
How did people react to the official battle?
Well, they reacted in a way that now the format had changed a little bit. It was the same format, but had changed. Like in Posse's battles, he had his own friends being judges. A lot of people there were some who were qualified, some who were not that qualified, and it just wasn't official. They didn't really do anything for the b-boys. So whoever won the competition, they didn't go anywhere. They didn't help them to go to the next level or whatever like that. So when we came up with the Ultimate B-Boy Jam, our jam was more of a professional thing where we had outside judges coming in from, I'm talking about New York, Sweden, England, wherever we could get people to come in and be a part of the thing and make it more of an official jam. And then whoever won, they got course prizes, money, but we still lifted them up to another level where they could go to a competition that was outside Finland and try their luck there. So we just did more for the b-boys to show, to bring the b-boy level up. Because if you just have a competition and you don't really do anything after the competition for the people who win, then where does it go? They just say, okay, we won the battle, we got a candy bar, we got a t-shirt, wow. But my idea was to do more for the b-boys, to bring the level up and to really get them outside and get the Finnish b-boy thing established on an international level. That's why we were talking, as I said earlier, about when we talked about the German thing, Battle of the Year, because that was the biggest b-boy thing at the time. We were trying to actually get a group to represent from Finland there. That's what our mission was. So.
What about well, a lot of people say that Flomo is one of the best groups in the world, right?
Yeah, they're considered. Yeah.
What do you think in Finland? What made them go so far? Like, what was it that?
Well, as I said before, timing, and at the time when they formed the group, we had the bboying. As I said, we did a lot for the groups that won the battles and pushed them, and they were focused on really trying to establish themselves out of Finland, because just being known in Finland is one thing, but if you can be known on an international level and you got international people talking about Flomo or whoever won from Finland, it makes the whole thing much bigger than just a Finnish, b-boy scholar. Now you're getting international world recognition, b-boys that are judging and teaching in other countries that are from Finland. The respect, they get now the respect, because at first Finland got no respect. We would go to these kind of competitions and big competitions and start talking about Finnish b-boys, and a lot of guys were looking at us like they just didn't want to hear anything about Finland. Finland, nobody knows nothing about Finland. I remember one time we went to Battle of the Year, me and Alexander Eulenberger. We went to Battle of the Year, and I remember it was the first time they had a Russian b-boy group representing Russia, top 9. The two hosts came out and they were introducing all the b-boy groups. And then they started talking about, okay, we got something really new here. We got, for the first time ever in the Battle of the Year, we got a b-boy group from Russia. And everybody started booing. It was crazy, like, oh, boo, Russia, boo, And the host, Tricks, he was like, hey, man, come on, y'all, check this out. You can't dish these people like this. These people will come all the way to represent their country, and that's not cool to be booing these guys. Had never seen these guys, right? And they were doing their showcases. So after he said that, he said, okay, the Russian group's going to come out and do their show. When these dudes did their show, the stuff that they did, nobody had never seen it before. People went crazy. These guys did some crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. They built this big pyramid. This dude jumped off the top of the pyramid, and they were just doing some crazy stuff that nobody had seen. After they did their exhibition, their show, everybody was like yelling for these dudes, like, yeah, whoa. It's like the whole thing changed, because it's the same way I feel about why we were trying to get the Finnish groups there, because we were trying to get groups there that have never represented in Battle of the Year. And I'm pretty sure the Finns would have probably got the same treatment as the Russians until they saw what they could do. So you should never kind of judge a person or judge anything before you see it. So just because, it's Russian, that doesn't mean it's not good. It's just that they had never had a chance to represent, to get there. It was only these bigger countries. But these guys after that, they got mad respect. Now it's like when they won Battle of the Year, I think. I'm not sure if they won in that year, but they won it. And, now they got mad respect around the world. So you can't dish Russia anymore. And it's the same with Finland. You can't dish Finland anymore because, you have groups like Flomo who's representing all over the world. And that's just the point. Everybody needs a chance. Everybody needs a chance to show what they can do. And that way you get your respect. People see what you can do. Like, wow, these dudes are actually really good. They really know what they're doing. So that's good for me, because seeing all the b-boying from the time of 1984 up to now, to actually see a Finnish group that's representing outside Finland, that's good, because I feel that I'm kind of part of that in a way. And I'm not saying that I made it happen. I'm just saying I'm part of it, because to be here to see it, I was the guy who started teaching first here, and to see now, this is the level, this is where it's gone now. It makes me feel good, because it's like, wow, I feel like I'm part of this thing, this history, and I am a part of the b-boy history in Finland.
You said that in the 80s, the battle system, it wasn't like nobody was fighting or anything in the So if there was a battle, nobody fights. And when the official UBI came, was there any, because it was like Finnish championship,
Yeah.
and was there any like heating up or be starting to have a beef with somebody
Yeah,
else?
there's always gonna be some dudes, some people who are gonna have beef with others. For whatever reasons, who knows? It could be a personal thing, or could just be a thing because the other guy's better than the other guy, or one guy's jealous, or somebody stole somebody's moves. It's always gonna be that kind of thing. But I mean, when I say no actual fighting, I mean nobody physically actually fought. You know what I mean? Like that it actually got to a point where people were throwing punches and kicks. But it was just that healthy competition kind of, manner and way they were handling things. It's going to be like that in b-boy all the time, b-boying and competitions all the time. But usually after the battle, usually the guys go and they shake hands or hug or whatever they do. Yo, good battle. But when they battling, they gotta change their whole persona, how they do it, because now you're in battle mode. It's time to, we're gonna kick your ass or you're gonna kick ours. Somebody's gonna lose, somebody's gonna win. That's how it goes. It's competition.
So, how do you think, after all these years now when you see b-boying in Finland, when you started, how's the b-boy scene or the hip hop scene changed?
Well, I would just say the level has changed because now it's been here. B-boying has been here now like 28 years. The level has changed a lot. In the beginning, it was a lot more basic. There wasn't even that many b-boy moves. There have been so many b-boy moves developed from the time of the 1980s up to 2000 something, 2010, 11, whatever. So many things have been added to b-boying. That's when, as I told you, when it first started out, is a handful of moves, maybe 5. Now there's like 20 or 30. There's so many like things you got to learn, and you got all the air flares and air tracks and 2000s and 1990s and just all kinds of crazy stuff that they're doing that people are adding. It's developing all the time, and there's more stuff coming to it all the time. Some stuff really good. There's some stuff I don't like, but I like more kind of the old school b-boying, more like style footwork, and that it's not like how many big tricks you do, but it's more like how you flow to the music and how you rock it. As you say, you got guys who are more footwork and style, and more guys who focus on power moves and crazy acrobatic stuff. There are a lot of guys who go out who don't even top rock. They just go straight into some crazy stuff. So it's kind of losing in that way, but I want to still see that way you go out and rock to the music. It's not like how many big moves you do, it's just how you do your moves and how you rock that music and how you rock your freezes and whatever, and your footwork and your style, and that whole attitude. That's how I feel about it.
How about the, like, what do you see the hip hop scene today? Like, how do you see it? How does it make you feel?
Well, as I said, now today it's kind of hard because I'm not so much into the hip hop scene that much anymore because I'm focusing more on my music career. So that's kind of taken me away from the scene. And it's not that I don't see hip hop that much. I still go to a few competitions whenever I'm in town, and I can have the chance to go to see what's going on there and all that. But it's everything. Everything evolves and it keeps changing. Now you have all this new school hip hop, house. Now these guys are over here. They're doing this voguing and all this kind of stuff. Okay, it's very different. As I said before, some of it is strayed away from a lot of the true old school hip hop stuff, but like everything in the world, things change. You either have to go with the change or you don't go with the change. As I said, I agree with some things I don't agree with. With the voguing, I have to say that voguing is a thing in itself. It has nothing to do with hip hop. It's not a hip hop thing. and voguing should be only in a class by itself with show dance or whatever like. But it's not hip hop. You don't see a lot of the old school stuff anymore. It's just everybody's doing a lot of new school. They call it new school, but to me, it's just basically freestyle. You're just doing whatever you want to do, and you can give it all these titles and names and whatever. But old school hip hop is old school hip hop. It'll never die, but it's all changing. You know, everything is just changing. But as I said, I can't remark on it that much because I've kind of strayed away from it. You know, from around 2005, 2006. I'm more into the music scene, and you know, I still dance, but I just dance when I do my shows. So don't teach anymore. I stopped teaching around 2004, 2003, somewhere like that. So I'm mostly concentrating on music. So
How you see that your life would turn out? That what would you do if you wouldn't ever start dancing, for example?
I still would have probably been doing what I'm doing now, music business. Singer, like I said, my whole family is basically, you know, we're music people and singing and stuff. So I probably would have been an entertainer anyway.
Yeah, but did it affect you? Like, for example, you like have a hip hop style for it. And if you never would seen it, would it be like gospel more?
I don't know. Well, not gospel. I would say more R&B, hip hop,
Yeah.
that kind of style, rap style, and whatever. Music and dance are very tied together, but still they're their own things, but they're still tied together. You know, because to be an entertainer, you have to kind of be able to do both. If you're a singer, you know, it's kind of nice if you can be able to dance and do that side as well. There are singers who are just singers who can't dance, and there are dancers who will just dance, but there are dancers who can sing as well. So it's kind of good if you're a little bit good at both. It's going to add more to your performance or whatever. So they go together. When you see a person, if Rihanna comes on the stage and she just sings and she didn't have any dancers, the show would be pretty boring, wouldn't it? She'd just be standing there on the stage by herself. So you got to have the whole aspect, the dance aspect, the whole visual aspect, the band, the singers, the dancers, the star. It's still there, so everything has to be the same.
Yeah.
When you were growing up,
Yeah.
and who were your like idols? Who were, for example, for some it might be in Finland. For a new generation, it might be Bonfa Games or Flowmo or something. Who was your like idol?
Well, I didn't really have any idols because in those days, well, I guess you can't use the term idols. It's more like people who you like, bands who you like. Because when I was growing up, of course, I grew up through more like the 60s and 70s. So I would say the word role model would be the best word to say. Idols, that's, you know, that came more later. Role models. Of course, as I said, being in the music business, there were a lot of great singers from the soul music days. Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles, a lot of different singing people. But as a role model, I would say, well, like I say, my father for one, he was probably my first role model in a way. Your parents are usually other people who teach you as your kid first, and then as you get older, you start to take on different other role models. When I was around 12, 13, probably first saw my first martial arts movie, kung fu movie, Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee was a big role model for me. When I say role model, of course, he was an actor and a martial artist, but I liked the way he kept himself in good shape. So I would follow his ways of exercising to keep myself in shape. So he was a good role model in that way. He was always in tip-top condition, all his muscles, you know, and so he would train. So I would follow his training regimen. So he was a role model in that days. But of course, you have a lot of, as I said, singers and people. I admire people like Charlie Wilson from the Gap Band, as Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, Donny Hathaway. There's so many singers I could name. There are female singers like Aretha Franklin, all kinds of singers that I liked. And you learn a little bit and pick up a little bit from everybody as you go through your life. You see people who inspire you to become this or that. So, but you have to have already that spark inside, that something in you that you know, already people can see when you're young, that person's going to be special. You can see it. And that was funny when I was teaching classes. You always can tell the ones who are going to be really, really good because you can see it already in them. All right. Take 55. Yeah, you can already see the spark in people already that you can know, like, this person's going to be really good because you can see it already from the beginning. All righty then. Huh? Well, he's changing something in the camera. Okay. Just going to warm up her. She's just going to warm up some food and then she'll take it away. Stop. Yeah. Well, we got some material to work with. Some good, lot of editing.
And maybe we're gonna make the movie. We were thinking because nowadays, we can put anything on the internet and everything stuff like that. So maybe we will make like a podcast.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll have the whole interview.
Okay.
Is that be okay?
Yeah, it's cool.
So people can listen to all this stuff.
Yeah, it's no problem.
If they like to learn more, for example, they can listen to the whole interview.
Yeah.
And not just what the bits are.
Yeah.
In the movie.
Yeah, the edited bits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many people in the movies.
And we have
So you've interviewed quite a lot of people.
Yeah, and we have already
20 hours of film. And maybe we'll have like
got a lot of work. Oh, gonna have a lot of work.
Yeah. This is probably coming out next year on
Okay.
End of next year.
end of next year maybe.
Oh, okay. 2 years from now. Yeah. It's gonna be almost ready. It's gonna turn off the microwave. So. Are you warming up something for Joanna? Psst. Are you warming up something for her? Yeah. Okay.
Would it be okay if we talk about your family or if they say hello? Do they want to say hello?
I don't know. That's. I think that she don't want to. She's like, nah.
What about your daughter?
Nah, she probably wouldn't want to do it. Yeah. And she's dancing as well too. Yeah, she's been in she's taken some breakdance classes and she's taken some locking classes and she's taken some popping classes and jazz classes and she's been a sport person actually. She was a gymnast for one team from Finland and stuff. So back to the matter at hand.
Yeah, so what do you think about then, like, Finland? How has it changed from when you were
Wow.
here first?
Well, yeah, Finland has changed a lot. When I first came in '84, there weren't that many foreign people here. So I could say at this point where we are now, there's a lot more foreigners and a lot more people. So it feels a bit better than it did in the beginning. But like I said, my life has basically changed now because my focus is not just working in Finland. I travel to different countries all around the world now. I have an agency out of the UK that books all my shows, and so I travel everywhere. I work with producers and DJs all around the world. So it gets me out of Finland a lot.
Can you tell me about your family?
Well, I mean, I have my wife here and my 2 daughters and everything like that. Mostly they're training and, doing some dancing things, few dancing things. They've been doing some dancing and used to talk to them about dancing all the time, show them some stuff through the years as they were coming up as kids and stuff like that. But usually kids want to kind of be with their friends and go to their dance classes. They don't want to learn dancing from their parents because they feel that, my parents are old and they don't know what's going on, even though I was the first guy here teaching this stuff. So I've taught so many other people. Most of the people that's been teaching them have been people that I've taught. So it's kind of funny. Like, why would you go to the second string when you're living with the person who actually brung this stuff here? So I can teach you firsthand what's going on and how it started, who it came from, the whole deal. But, kids will be kids.
Okay. Yeah.
What would you say to like new generation of people who is interested in hip hop and maybe will watch this movie, and tips or like some truths?
Well, my only thing is that if you learn about hip hop and you get interested in it, in street dance and popping, waving, locking, b-boying, whatever it is you want to do, get into it, practice it, know your art. But the main thing I would say, know the history behind what you're doing. A lot of people get into dancing and they don't know any foundation or any history about where the stuff they're doing even comes from, or who it comes from, or who developed it. So basically, know your history, know the foundation where these things started and who it came from, and basically, so that a tree can't grow if a tree don't have roots. It starts from the foundation. So you gotta learn your foundation to become a good dancer, become even a better teacher. You have to have the knowledge. You can't just go and teach a move and you don't know where the move came from. So what if the student says, well, where does this come from? And you look at the student, well, I don't know. I learned it from another person. Makes you look kind of stupid. So it's better to know where things come from, do your research, pay your dues and research things, and so you know what you're doing. If you become a teacher, if you just want to be a dancer, fine. Just work at your craft and become good. Do what you got to do to make it. Yeah.
Can you say any shout outs to anyone you want?
Shout outs. Well, shout outs to everybody, to the b-boy community, to the hip hop community, to the street dance community. Y'all know who I am, so I ain't got to explain who I am. Most of the people here should know who I am in Finland. And if they don't, now you know. But keep doing what you're doing and keep things pure. Of course, things are going to change here and there, but, still keep these people who know the foundations and know what they're doing so that they can preserve the history and always remember who came before you.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it.
I'm going to check one more time. So.
If he didn't miss anything. Okay, what size shoes do you wear? We got to put that in there.
Was it hard to organize the UBI, for example, to bring all the...
No. Once we figured out what we're going to do here, who was going to be involved here, the next step was getting the outside guys. And what I had a lot of contacts with people outside already. So basically, it was only a matter of making phone calls and stuff and saying, who we are, this is who we are, we would like you, we're having this big competition, would you be interested in being a judge in the competition? And if they were interested, then we would tell them the other details about, okay, we'll fly you here and you'll be in a hotel and this is what we'll pay you for this and that. So it wasn't that difficult.
How did they usually react to when you mentioned that it's in Finland or something?
Just that, wow, I've never been to Finland before, because as I said, we were probably the first guys bringing like a lot of outside b-boys to Finland. So it was a good and great opportunity for those guys to come over and see the b-boy scene here, because a lot of people hadn't been here. Usually a lot of these guys would go to the bigger countries like Germany, England. They were more well known for b-boying and the history and all that, but the smaller countries like Finland and stuff, they hadn't really been they didn't really know much about Finland, and just, we opened that stuff up and really got people to come to Finland. A lot of people were like, wow, this is great. I like this place. It's different, and it's experience for those guys when they come and see what it's like over here, and to see the Finnish culture, to see what Finnish b-boy scene is, or hip hop scene is, or whatever, and they're pretty surprised, and it's a good experience for them on their side as well, not only for the Finnish people. So, yeah.
Can I ask you about the 80s one more time?
Oh yeah, no problem.
So like people keep telling us that they used to make their own clothes and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you make your own clothes?
No. Most of my stuff came always from the States. All my clothes styles came from the States, so I didn't have to make anything. I just go to the States, pick up what I needed, and stuff I already had anyway. So I came over with hip hop style. I had a lot of clothes already, so I didn't have to make anything.
Did people ask you to bring stuff?
Yeah, a few people, yeah. I did that before. I asked them to bring a lot of T-shirts and stuff like that over, and sneakers, Adidas shell-toe shoes and stuff that you couldn't get in Finland. A lot of vinyls, records, stuff like that, yeah. For a lot of the upstarting, coming DJs and people who wanted to be DJs, because they weren't selling in the beginning any hip-hop music. Like when I first came to Finland, I didn't hear any hip-hop music anywhere. They didn't play it on the radio. They didn't have it. Nobody was playing it on the streets. There were no people dancing on the streets. Like in America, you go to places, you hear music blasting on the radio, or you hear a dude with a boom box and they're on the block and there are people are dancing on the street. But here it was the very beginning, so none of that was happening. So
what kind of music then the first, like in the 80s, was b-boy music? Or
well, the basic stuff, Africa Bambaataa, Soul Sonic Force, James Brown, all the stuff that was playing in the States, I brought it basically here. I had a lot of vinyls. In those days, it was vinyls. There was no CDs. Vinyls and 8-track, not 8-track, but cassette tapes. So that was the norm. But we played in the dance school, they had record players. So we played a lot of stuff from the record players. Then the CD era came in, and then the vinyl started dying out, and they started getting these CD players, and everybody would, get the CDs and stuff like that.
How about in Lepakko, there were a lot of like artists, like Ice-T or...
Yeah, plenty of rappers came here, yeah, in the era. Actually, I think one of the first rap groups that came here, I was there, it was Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5 MCs came here. They were, I think, the first outside rap group from New York that came here. I was at the show. It was in this place called Vanha. And it was really funny because it was still in the beginning, as I said. And when these guys was rapping and talking about scratching, a lot of Finnish people didn't know what was going on, because the people, the mistake that they made was they made this show for people who were, I think, over 20 to get in. And the people who were over 20, most of them didn't know anything about hip hop. They just wanted to see something different. So they knew nothing about hip hop, and all the young people who were into hip hop and into the rap thing, they weren't old enough to get into the club, into the place. I guess they were selling alcohol, good old alcohol. So that kind of spoiled the whole thing. So the people who wanted to get in, and they couldn't get in. So most of the people that were inside were novices and people who knew nothing about hip hop. So they had to kind of explain what they were doing, because a lot of people didn't understand what they were doing. And when they're talking about scratching on the records and all that kind of stuff, they didn't understand that. They were like, what? Meet that? They didn't know what it was. So it was just kind of strange to be at a rap concert that people didn't understand what rap was. So it was just the first experience. It was pretty packed, yeah. It was pretty packed for Grandmaster Flash and the Fierce MCs, Melly Mel, Scorpio, Cowboy. These kind of different things. Yeah, there are a lot of people there, but it was just, I guess it was strange for them too, because they're performing for people who didn't know nothing about rap music. So it was kind of strange to them, because I guess, when Finnish people, I would say, almost in every concert I've been in, they're not like these wild American crowds. Finnish people, when they see a concert, they're just really quiet. They want to hear what's going on. They're not there yelling and screaming and going like mad wild. So that confuses a lot of artists when they're on the stage, because the artists start to think, oh, okay, we must sound like shit because nobody's like clapping and nobody's yelling. But the Finns are different, so the culture is different. So I even went to the guys when we were talking with the guys, and I was like saying, yeah, you had a great concert, man. I said, but don't take it like it wasn't great because the Finns weren't yelling and screaming. They don't do that. That's just their way. They don't yell and scream, especially in the old days. They just when they go to a concert, they just look at it. They just look at it, and when you're finished, they clap. It's like that kind of thing. They didn't understand that they can clap through the whole thing and yell and scream, but that's a cultural thing. That's just how it is. So I know a lot of people felt kind of bad, like, man, we must have sounded like shit because nobody did anything. No, it's just a Finnish crowd, bro. Now, it would have been different if you had passed out some free alcohol. Drink this first, get drunk, then it probably would have been totally different. Yeah, going crazy. I don't know what they're saying, but whatever. It might have been a little different then, but it was just, that's how it was. It was crazy. So, but yeah, there've been a lot of rap groups, man, come through in the days. Ice-T, Digital Underground. I think Eric B. and Rakim, EPMD, Gangstar. A lot of people have come through, man. A lot of people have come through. De La Soul.
What about when they started to know about hip hop? How did they react?
Yeah, well, it started to get better. It started to get a little better. They kind of knew what the program was about and what they should do, and how they could act and react in the program. Because a lot of rappers, they started adding the crowd into the act. He say, oh, trying to get them hyped, get the people with it. So it started to get better as time went on. Yeah.
And were there ciphers in there?
Not in the early days, no. That probably came way later. But in the early days, no, nobody was doing any ciphers during the time when the guys were performing on the stage. Everybody just wanted to see the performance, see what they're doing on stage, see the show, the spectacle.
And what about, when did you see the first Finnish rap groups perform?
Well, as I said before, they had some early guys, Raptori, a few dudes. There were a few unofficial rap groups, that would try their things at little scavas and stuff like that. I would probably say around the late 80s. Yeah. So there was a group, I remember Damn the Band. There's a group called Damn the Band. I remember MC Rico, one of the b-boys, one of the dudes used to be my students, and they had a little rap group thing going on. And then there's others who came later on and stuff. So Damn the Band was probably one of the first rap groups that I saw, Finnish rap groups.
Do you have any other stories from the 80s?
Ooh,
remember something
stories.
That
would be something I'd have to think about. Well, let's see.
Well, I want to ask something. You were talking about that people were kind of waiting for the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Was it do you think it was that everybody was doing punk and then everybody changed to hip hop?
Yeah, I would say, when I first came here, there were basically two groups that gravitated to the youth, so the young people, and that was more like the rockers, the rock and roll people, rock people, and the punk rock people. So most of the people that I saw when I came here were the young people were either rockers or punkers. And so I'm pretty sure there were a lot of guys and a lot of people who didn't want to be a rocker, and there were a lot of guys who didn't want to be a punker. So the next new thing that came was hip-hop, b-boying. And when that came, they jumped on that. I want to be a b-boy. I want to do this thing. I want to be in hip-hop. And that was the next new thing that came, so, in 84.
What about, was USA, a big thing? Were people really interested in US?
Yeah, of course, because it's the same way that it hit Finland, the same way the craze grew in the States. The b-boy thing grew big from the East Coast and became big, and people wanted to start doing that. But then again, on the other side was the West Coast, where the popping and the locking and all that stuff came from, and the electric boogaloo that came from. So you had two different sides doing two different things. And then somehow it came together, and when they start having these big jams, and kind of merged together. Because you'd see guys doing b-boying, but then you'd see poppers, and you'd see lockers, and electric boogaloo people. So they kind of merged it together. In Finland, it's different because when it came, I started to kind of teach more b-boy stuff because that was the thing that they asked me to come and teach, even though I could pop, I could lock, I could do electric boogaloo. I was teaching that as well, mixing everything in together. I didn't just say, okay, I'm only going to teach b-boy and that's all I'm going to do. I kind of taught a little bit of everything. So to give the Finns a little bit more well-rounded structure of hip-hop together, and kind of mixed everything together.
What do you think that people like when people dance today, just concentrate on one dance style, or is it a good idea to do a lot of different styles?
In the beginning, one dance style. The ones who wanted to be b-boys did b-boying. But then later on, they maybe wanted to consider some other stuff. There are a lot of b-boys who became lockers. There are a lot of b-boys who became poppers. There are a lot of b-boys who started doing house. And, it starts to spread out. Because when you do one thing for so long, you kind of want to like, okay, it would be nice to maybe try something else. Maybe I could do this as well. So it's the same with everything. You might start out as a DJ and you might become a b-boy, or you might find something else interesting, even though you still do those things. You just experience more things, and as you experience more things in life, it changes you. So that's how it goes. It was the same for me. I mean, I was more of a boogaloo guy, popper, locker in the beginning, but when I saw b-boying, I saw it was nice, it was interesting. It would be interesting to learn some of the moves. So of course I picked up a little from everywhere, because the more you know and the more you can do, the more versatile you're gonna be. So when you go to a battle, if a guy jumps out and starts b-boying and you ain't a b-boy, you're already beat. So he's already gonna beat you because you can't b-boy. But it's the same for him. If you jump out and start popping and locking, he can't pop and lock, so you're going to beat him. So that's why it's good to be a guy who can do a little bit of everything. So you have more weapons in your arsenal when you go to battle. So that's the thing.
What about in the 80s? Or was it that everybody was doing all the styles?
Yeah, I would say a little bit of everything. Mostly still b-boying, because the b-boy thing was still the biggest. It was the biggest craze. The breakdancing was the biggest thing. So that was more the focus. Everybody was doing a lot more b-boying. But there were still the other things too, but it wasn't that prominent and so big. It became big later. Like popping and locking became bigger much later here, even though I taught some locking things and I taught some popping things in the 80s, but it wasn't popular then. Some people did it who wanted to learn it, but it wasn't the popular thing. The popular thing was being a b-boy, a b-girl. I want to do b-girl, b-boy stuff. And then after the b-boy stuff started dying out, more people started gravitating more to the street dance, hip-hop, popping, locking, other stuff. Then that started to become much bigger.
Were there b-girls in the 80s?
Yeah, there were a few. Yeah, a lot of girls came to the class. Surprising, a lot of girls came to the class to learn b-boying and b-girling and whatever you want to call it. So there were a lot of them. A lot of girl groups, and a few not a lot of girl groups, a few girl groups, but a lot of girls in the classes who were learning b-boying. So it wasn't only guys. There were a lot of guys, but there were a lot of girls too. So they wanted to learn it too.
Did they become good?
Some did, yeah. There were some that were pretty good, doing a lot of b-boy tricks, six-step, turtles, swipes, windmills. They were like pretty good girls then. So they were pretty competitive at the time too. So it was cool.
Do you remember anyone in particular?
Hard to say again. We're going back to the 1980s. I had quite a lot of girls in my class. There were quite a few. A girl named Susanna Nevelainen. She was pretty good at like boogaloo dancing, popping, and stuff like that. Jonna Mustajoki was a pretty good breaker. She could break pretty good because she had a gymnastic background. Yeah, quite a few girls. I just can't.
Are they still around?
Ooh, I'm pretty sure they're probably still around, but I haven't seen them. You know, it's been so many years have gone by, and we're talking about if they were in my classes during the late '80s. We're talking about a long time. So,
What do you think about the Finnish b-boy style?
Finnish b-boy style. Well, I wouldn't say there's a Finnish b-boy style because the b-boys all have different styles. So I would more say the Finnish b-boy level. The level has gotten very good, very high, but it's hard to say about the styles because each individual has his or her own kind of style. If all the b-boys break the same or had the same style, nobody would stand out. So I would say that the level is very high, b-boy level is high, but everybody has kind of their own, the highest b-boys and the ones who've been working a long time, they tend to try to develop their own kind of style so it's unique to them, like with everybody. Same thing in the States. If you go to wherever b-boy competition, they're going to have a certain person who has that certain style, so he stands out, he does certain kind of tricks or moves a certain kind of way, and you know it's that guy. When he does it, oh, that's so-and-so. But then again, of course, you have people who can bite those styles as well. There's a lot of copycats and biters, but of course, everybody strives to be able to have their own particular style so they stand out.
What do you think about the b-boying scene worldwide these days?
Hard to say. I don't know how big it is or where it's at this point because, as I said, I really don't go to a lot of b-boy scabas. Scabas outside Finland and just really don't do that anymore for at least past 6-7 years now. So I can't really say what the scene is everywhere else. I'm pretty sure there's still guys b-boying and stuff, but I don't know what the level or where it is at this moment. It's hard to say outside Finland. So as I said, I don't go to many competitions even here. You know, if I'm here and I hear about a competition and I have the chance to go, then I'll go and check it out and just to hang around and see, you know, what's going on. See a lot of people I know and old friends and stuff like that. But it's cool.
Do you think that in this b-boying won't die out? And do you think that can it extinct?
Will it? Well, I don't. That's hard to say. It's for Finland. If you're speaking about Finland, okay, since Finland is a small country, b-boying has always been a small thing here. It ain't been that big. You got 5 million people, and how many people out of that 5 million do b-boying? It's very small. So even though the b-boy scene, I think the scene already has gone down. It's still there at some point, but it ain't at that high level anymore. You know, the hip hop and street dancing things are more bigger now than the b-boy scenes. When you have these competitions, it's all hip hop people, and I mean, like when I say hip hop, I'm talking about house dancers, lockers, poppers, new style hip hop. B-boying is not that big anymore. You still have guys who do b-boying, but now a lot of the b-boys are searching for new ways to use their b-boy skills. It's kind of going down, but a lot of the prolific groups like Flomo, they try to travel out of, you know, Helsinki or out of even Finland, for that matter, to teach here, to be judges there. It's just that whole level is not that big anymore. It's still there, but it's at a lower level. But the hip hop and house dancing and popping and voguing and all that kind of stuff, that's much bigger. When you go to the competitions, you're going to see more of that. You're not going to see that much b-boying. There's a few who still do it, but.
So did you do like hip hop or b-boying in a theater?
No. I never went really to the theater with my stuff. I mean, I've done shows, but never got to that point where it became a theater thing. As I said, I picked up b-boying back in around 76, 77 school days, high school days, learned pieces here and there, and then learned more when we had our group X-Men. When this guy John Smith came in, he showed us a little bit more on the b-boying side, and so that we would be more versatile as a group. So we taught each other our Pacific kinds of dances and stuff like that. So we would be a stronger group. But no, I never really did any b-boying on a sort of theater level or anything like that. So just more on a teaching level.
What about when you started dancing? Were there like when you saw b-boying the first time? You started around the 70s, right?
Yeah, late 70s.
Late
Yeah,
70s?
76, 77.
Yeah. Were there like known b-boys then, or was it just a thing, or were there like famous people?
There wasn't that many known b-boys then. Maybe from New York, you know, there were hundreds of crews doing b-boying. The most prolific groups from New York were like the New York City Breakers, Rocksteady. You know, they became pretty well known, and then the individual b-boys started to get more known from those groups and stuff like that. But there were hundreds of groups. There was too many, you know. And then when it started spreading all over the states, there started to become groups in every state. Every state had hundreds of b-boy groups, so it became so big. Nobody had a really big name that stood out, you know, until much, much later. It became more famous and more of a fashion to be like a superstar b-boy or b-girl or whatever. Yeah. Anything else? He's thinking.
Is there anything you want to say?
Well, not really. I mean, we've covered a lot of the b-boy scene here in Finland when it started out. So, you know, you basically got all the time restraints and the years basically when it started, 84, around August 84 when I started working in Tanssio-pisto. It was really weird. I mean, this guy I was telling you about called Ron Hayes, he was our unofficial manager for our group, the X-Men. When he came over to Finland, you know, we both came to Finland because his friend Siri Satnam was the one who set it up. And he came to teach jazz, but they also gave Ron a few, you know, b-boy classes. Ron knew some basic b-boy stuff. But even at that time, knowing basic b-boy stuff, you were still looked at as a star because no one here could do it. You understand? They had to learn it. So even a person who wasn't that good at breakdancing was looked at still like, whoa, you know, this guy's great. And he was a jazz dancer. So he could still do basic stuff and six-step and swipes and turtles and all that kind of stuff. He could still do the basic stuff. And because there were just so many classes. There were so many, you know, I was teaching like almost 4 or 5 classes in a day, you know, almost 6 days a week. So it was pretty heavy. Those first 2-3 years were pretty heavy because the craze, you know, there was just people flocking to the dance school, like, wow, breakdancing, hip hop, b-boying, yeah. And it was like, and I was the main guy. So that's why they had to give Ron Hayes some classes. And then there was even another guy. It was a woman here from California named, what was her name? Karen Brown. She's a jazz teacher. She bring her 14-year-old son here named Suamana Brown. And they even gave, he knew a little bit about b-boying and knew some popping things and all that. They even gave him some classes to teach. So there was a 15-year-old guy teaching in Tanssio-pisto as well because there was just so many classes. There's no way I could have taught those many classes. The demand was just way too big. They needed to have at least 5 b-boy teachers. But in those days, I was the main one, so they had to give stuff to Ron. They gave stuff to even classes to this young boy because it was just too many classes. Too many people signing up wanting to learn b-boying. It was crazy in the beginning. It was crazy. So I had to dance a lot. I was very sore every week doing all the dancing because to show people, for people to see it, you had to show the moves. You had to do it so they could see it. Like, oh yeah. So it took a lot. Those first 3 years were pretty hard.
Did you like to teach?
I got into teaching. Yeah, it was different because as I told you, I wasn't really a dance teacher. I didn't come here to really be a dance. I mean, I came to be a dance teacher, but I wasn't a dance teacher. I was more a dancer. So, but since they asked me to take this dude's place, Thomas's place, that thrust me in the position of being a dance teacher. So I had to kind of become a dance teacher and learn how to break all the stuff down and teach on a simple level. Because to show some moves, okay, you can look at it, but to really know how it is, truly everything in life, you got to break it down, simplify everything, break it down. And so I as the years went on, I became a better teacher and learned a little bit more techniques on how to teach people. Because I think the biggest problem with teaching people how to dance in Finland was rhythmical things, because Finnish people weren't that rhythmical. You know, if you put on a song and they start dancing, they didn't understand the beat. They didn't understand that you got to dance to the rhythm of the music and the beat. So they were sometimes dancing faster than the rhythm and not listening to the beat. So I had to actually break it all down and to a basic level. Listen to the drum, listen to the snare, listen what's going on in here. You hear the drum, and just got the people to move and dance, clap with the music and get the rhythm going. So once they start to get the rhythm, then they start to understand how to dance with the beat and the groove of the music, depending on what the groove was and what to follow. But in the beginning, a lot of people didn't know what to follow. They were just doing moves. I said, no, you can't just do the moves like that. You gotta listen to what the beat is making, you know, what the beat makes you do. Listen to that beat, you know, and then it's start to complicate things and give them more steps. Same way with top rocking, just learning to do the basic moves, and then once you get the basic moves, do it with the music. Once you get the basic moves and the music, then start adding more stuff, and you know, and eventually they learn rhythm. You start to become more rhythmical, because some people are born with rhythm and some people are not. It doesn't matter what you do, they just don't get it. They just don't hear it. You know, no matter how you teach them, anybody can do steps. But steps are easy. But when you have to do it to the rhythm, then it becomes hard. Because if you don't know how to listen, you're just going to be out there just stepping and doing whatever movements. Movements are easy to teach, but doing it with rhythm and music is different. So that was a little hurdle in the beginning. Got to break it down and teach people how to even dance with the groove, the rhythm. So crazy stuff.
I think that's it.
Oh, did you know any other? Did you meet any other teachers from abroad? Because we heard there was.
Yeah, they had quite a few teachers from abroad, but in the let's say as I came here in '84, Tansio Pisto hired a lot of teachers, but as I said, in the hip hop field, I was the basic hip hop, dance, b-boy, boogaloo teacher. Then they had to give some classes to Ron, they had to give some classes to Sulmana, but all the other teachers were mainly jazz dancers and jazz teachers. So, and then the years after that, so they had another, you know, most of the people they hired were more jazz and modern dancers, because on the breakdance side or the b-boy side, since they had me teaching, why hire another teacher to teach when you got this guy who's already doing it? So that's why, as I told you, they asked me to stay, because I was supposed to leave after 1 year, go back to the States, but then they convinced me to stay and said, hey, people like you and we like the way you teach, and you know, we'd like you to stay and you know, and carry on the thing, because for the students, it's nice to keep with the same guy. It's silly if you're going to hire now another guy. He's going to come, he might have a whole different way of teaching, so now you got to learn the whole thing all over again. And since I already had a following and the people liked me, so it was easier for them to stay with the same guy.
Oh, but did you meet any other foreign like b-boys or hip hop teachers in Helsinki?
Maybe from other schools. Maybe it came from other schools, but not in Tansio Pisto. They didn't hire any other b-boy teachers in Tansio Pisto. The other schools were smaller than Tansio Pisto, so after the craze started getting bigger, there were a few guys here and there, even some local guys teaching. I remember there was a guy, I don't know exactly who he was, his name is Fernando. And Fernando kind of worked for this Yari Samuel and Iro Samuelin's son, and he was kind of teaching some stuff, but he wasn't really a b-boy or anything like that. It's more like a boogaloo dancer, teaching popping, some waves and stuff like that. But I think b-boy teachers, they didn't really hire too many more of those people here. They just brought a lot of more like hip-hop teachers and street dance teachers here because it became bigger.
Okay.
He's thinking, he's thinking.
Yeah. Did you have any, like, did the b-boys have any contacts outside of Finland in the 80s?
No, not in those days. It started coming more like probably in the late 90s. In the 80s, they didn't have any contacts. Nobody in Finland really had any contacts to any b-boys or well-known b-boys in the States at that time. There used to be a German group that used to come over, because they used to have a boat that used to come from Germany to Finland, and there was some guys from Germany that came over. There was, I can't remember the group, but there was this breaker, this guy called Storm, and Storm's brother Speedy, and they used to come over and do some shows and stuff like that, but you know, they were just sporadic. They would have some sporadic b-boys that would come over from England and stuff, and just, you know, who would be doing a show for some kind of club or something like that. So there was some promoters promoting these different guys, you know, to come over, different groups to come over just to do some b-boy shows. So we did like a lot of b-boy shows as well. The second year I was here, I got the girl who was in our group, her name was Laverne Smith. I got her over here and she became a teacher. She was teaching b-boy and b-girling and you know, popping, locking and everything. She was here for a year. And then we would put on shows together with her because we were from the same group, X-Men. And we did a few shows in some nightclubs and stuff like that. Some commercials, stuff, TV.